coming up.
And then as I marinated in it, it's my belief that it was a male energy, it was a son, he was killed out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how long ago, but the ancestral thing makes me think it was quite a long time ago.
Welcome to Unholy Vibes, a journey through the realms of true horror. Although not a religious podcast, our guests may present stories intertwined with personal faiths and beliefs to maintain authenticity. We welcome guests from various spiritual backgrounds, acknowledging the impact of their beliefs on their experiences. Thank you for joining. Let's dive in with an open mind and respect for all perspectives. Welcome to Unholy Vibes.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Everyone, today we're joined by a special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do.
My name is Denise. I live in Wickenburg, Arizona. I am a sound healer and just a mom taking care of my kids.
Excellent. My wife calls it a domestic engineer, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we are here today because my mom, because of my mom, she's a mutual connection between the two of us. You may not know this. I don't know what she's told you, but I recorded an episode a few months back, and I brought you up.
Okay.
I brought my mom up.
Okay.
And I said, well, my mom runs this crystal shop in Arizona,
mm-hmm.
and she has someone that came in and had something attached to them, and she basically performed a little exorcism, for lack of a better words.
Right,
I don't know. And so you've been mentioned.
Uh-huh.
And now you're here. And you're going to tell your side of the story and give us a little bit of background.
Okay.
And again, thank you for being here. Thanks of all,
for having me.
The timing worked out. You know, we're visiting my mom and my stepdad. We're out here hanging out, and I'm just glad that you're here.
Yeah,
and
Colleen shot me the text, and I was like, sure.
And I'm so happy because you never know. Some people are like, no, thank you. And by the way, everyone, if you hear some janky audio, it's because we're right next to the street.
Yes.
Hear those trucks? We're going to hear that and horn honking and all of that. So, yeah.
I'm trying to think. So I'm just trying to figure out where to begin because I'll just do kind of when I was coming into the store, what brought me in here. I had recently gone through, a spiritual journey, spiritual awakening this last year. I'm 3.5 years sober off of alcohol. So I've been really into meditating in, my spirituality and just really finding out who I am and just really being one with myself and sober. So I had gone on a camping trip. And I'd done some pretty heavy meditation. And when I was meditating up there, I felt very relaxed and free. And I felt very intense energy on me, but nothing ever scary, nothing ever, out of the ordinary or anything like that. I really felt like I was connecting with nature and just really kind of getting in tune with me. And I didn't really notice anything until I got home. I started to try and turn on the TV. It would start to flicker, but then it would come off. And so I'm thinking, well, we live in a fifth wheel and we have some, electrical problems sometimes. So I'm like, oh, my husband, this and that, trying to figure it out and everything's fine. And so I have an air purifier that sits next to me. So it's something that I have, running because it's a small space, trying to keep the air clean. And so it stops. And so when it stops, I'm like, of course, it's just, the electricity again, something is with the inverter, fifth wheel problems. And so again, everything's fine. And so I lay down and it starts up again. And so I just lay down on my pillow and I'm like, okay, that's just kind of again, rationalizing in my mind because it's a USB plug. So it just, it inched it in a little bit. It just kind of gave that extra little nudge, everything was working, electricity's fine. So I'm laying there and I've had some recent meditative experiences where I speak to my spirit guides. So when I was in the trailer, I could feel presence around me. I could feel different lights and shadows. So when I'm meditating, I can see things kind of like little floaties kind of
in your
passing.
Eyes.
Yes.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's the best way I can just describe it to someone if they've never seen a spirit before or anything. How I see it, it's kind of like floating imagery in that sense. So I was feeling these things, I was seeing these things, but again, I had been meditating for a while so that I wasn't super freaked out by it just because I had been kind of in tune with it. These things are coming and they're going. So then I started taking a shower, and showers are usually kind of a cleansing space where I can just really think and be one. And I'm in a little fifth wheel, and the shower spaces are very tiny.
They're pretty small, yeah.
Very tiny, and it's just a curtain. And all of a sudden, like, yes, we have like a little like skylight, and the skylight's on. It's bright, but the whole bathroom gets dark. It's not like a pitch black, like, lights go out or anything like that, but it's just like a sudden wave of darkness that comes over. And I initially have this fear, but at the same time, I know I'm protected. I'm saging, I'm clearing. I know that I have some kind of practice at this point, because before I had no practice. I was in that spiritual psychosis when your mom had to kind of help cleanse me out. But obviously didn't learn too much of my lesson, because I was out meditating in the woods thinking, here I am just doing this, light meditation. I'm very protected. Coming home to the shadow. So again, in the shadow, I'm in the shower. And again, I feel like I'm protected, but I also have a sense of fear, which that's the first time that I had a sense of fear after coming home from this camping trip, and the electrical things that were happening. So I'm sitting there and I'm just calling on my angels and my guides to just kind of protect me in the moment. I close my eyes and I'm just envisioning, the white light here, in the top of my crown, just waiting for it to go over. And I feel this whole like warmth go down my body, and it is just like illuminating my whole body in the shower. And it's like, I can feel it like reach. It's not like grounding. When you're grounding techniques, I feel like, you really feel yourself going into the ground. But I literally felt a surge of energy just completely placing me in a place of peace. Long story short, when I opened up my eyes, nothing's there.
No shadows.
No shadows. Complete peace. So that was the main spiritual aspect of it. Before it was just electronics, things not working, I'm making...
Could have been coincidence, could have just been happening.
Right, but this was the more of like the spiritual side of it. I was like, okay, so something, I could feel something's off.
Something is happening for sure now.
Right.
That was your confirmation of like, okay, it's not just...
electronics.
Weird electronical happenstance.
Right. Yeah. After that, so since I study sound healing and things like that, I drum outside, I play my flute outside and my crystal bowls. And so I'm outside and I can literally feel like a presence like behind me. Like it's not, the words, I don't know how to describe it. It's really uneasy and it doesn't feel like evil, it doesn't feel negative, but it doesn't feel good. And I've had these feelings. And so I'm trying to remember what exactly brought me in to your mom that day. My memory's so terrible.
Did you come in the same day as the shower and the electronics, or did you come?
It was all in the same week.
Same week.
Yeah. So It literally, I would journal and I look back at it now because I was coming here and I was trying to look back and I could see how things in my journal, like, here's another thing, I would stop journaling. And when I would stop journaling, this is when the really, like, not negative things, but the weird things were happening. I wasn't journaling. I wasn't like in it because I was so distracted by other things that were happening around me. I was so distracted and I looked in my journal and it said spirit made me stop writing in big letters to remind myself.
Keep at it.
Right.
Don't stop.
Right. And so when I looked back at it, and that was the time when this entity or whatever, your mom explained it better than I could, was attached to me. So I'm also just trying not to get, because there's so many similarities within the first time I came into your mother's shop and the second that I just don't want to like mix the two. So I'm just trying to think, had to be something specific, or maybe I think it was along the lines of, because I had that spiritual psychosis at the beginning. That's what initially brought me in here, was legit spiritual psychosis. Like I was asking my husband, I'm like, legit, like I'm staring at the sun, I'm doing like weird things with my tongue, like I literally had like a spontaneous kundalini awakening, third eye activation. Like I had the spiritual psychosis. So when you're bringing that up to me, it's like, it's really interesting because that literally happened to me. I told him, if like I'm not better in a couple of days, you are taking me to the mental hospital, like you are taking me,
just in case,
well, I couldn't sleep, like this was before, like I was just seeing things like, again, like the shadows, but it was like I was in two different dimensions. Like the world was shifting before me. Like I would think one thing and like I would literally see the ground move in front of me, like that type of thing, spiritual psychosis. So that is what brought me in, is because I was having those feelings again, like I couldn't, like I wasn't sleeping really well, like I was on edge.
So it happened, you came in, got some solutions, and then it started happening again. You thought maybe you'd put it to bed.
Right.
You go camping, you come home, anomalies are happening, and you're like, something's happening again.
Yes.
So it kind of set off the alarms. Hey,
yes.
I should probably...
As my body's like reliving the trauma right now. Whew.
Yeah, deep breaths.
No, and that's what happens when I talk about it, because that's what happened is I was having those feelings again. I'm like, I cannot feel this way just because I have to do my daily life. Like, I have to be a mom. I have to...
Still have to function.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I knew your mom at that point. So like, she'll have a solution. Like, I'll come in here, Colleen will get me figured out. She'll kind of feel me out and see what's going on. So I had talked to her, how I went camping and I was meditating and this, and she was like, well, I don't even know how we even got on the conversation to it, but she literally she pulled out the chair, she sat me down. Like, that's the thing. I would like to listen to what your mom said, because I literally don't even really know like what happened in that moment, because I was so, it's not fearful is the word. Maybe I was fearful. I don't know.
I'm sure it was a mix of complex feelings and emotions.
Yeah, because like I knew I was okay, but I wasn't okay. Like,
well, maybe it was like you have a sense of foreboding. Like, I'm okay now, but if I don't get this taken care of, maybe something like that. Like, you're trying to get ahead of the the curve here.
Yes. Yeah, because...
And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. No, I'm just trying to...
No, because the last time, like, it had got pretty, the spiritual psychosis was pretty bad, to where when I was doing my sound healing, I literally was playing my bowls for hours, like, nonstop, thinking that, like, I was getting rid of, like, all of the negativity around me. Like, I was in it. Like, there was no stopping me. Like, I was... The tongue on the top of the roof, like the mudras, the out staring at the sun. Like, my husband, he would come out, he'd be like, you've been out here looking at the sun for like an hour. Are you okay? I'm like, I've been out here that long? And he's like, yeah, you've just been standing out here. But, I meditate in the sun. So like 10 minutes here and there, like, no big deal. He's like, but you've been out here for an hour.
For an hour. Can be good for your eyes to stare at the sun that long.
Obviously, I'm not staring directly at the sun, but,
I don't know. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, but, I'm in the direction of the sun, just like kind of, out there, with my eyes closed, like just,
Okay.
Not like directly staring at the sun, but like I'm out there.
Taking in the rays.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is the other weird part in my spiritual psychosis, is that when I was out there, I would notice because I wouldn't notice that I was out there. So this happened more than once, that I'd be out there for a long period of time. So when he would come out there and he would like catch me, like I would always notice that like my tongue was on the roof of my mouth. Yes. So I've also gone down the rabbit hole of looking on that and like what that could mean in the whole spiritual sense. Obviously, it had something to do with whatever was attached to me at that time, which ended up being, I guess, some person that I picked up in the woods, literally someone who had been out there for I don't even know how long, had attached itself to me in that camping trip. And your mom was able to release this person literally to the other side. I don't know exactly what her whole doings of it, but the number one thing that I remember when I was in the chair is your mom just repeating over and over how thankful the guy was. And that's the number one thing that stuck with me, even though it was such a burden to me. It felt like a burden, like I was going crazy and like I was going through all of this, and it kind of just goes back to a lot of things in my life. You go through things to help others to get somewhere, and it's like it really wasn't a burden because we helped him get home.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just not your daily norm to have something attached to you.
No.
So it's a burden. I think it's probably a burden in the sense where it's like you're carrying a backpack and you're not used to carrying a backpack.
Right. Yeah.
And it's heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now you can take it off.
Right.
And the backpack's happy. I mean, the spirit is happy that you transported. Maybe you needed to get out of the woods. It was just lost there or stuck. Who knows?
Exactly.
I don't know. But
we don't know. But all that I know, and and that maybe your mom knows, is that she was able to help me personally by lifting this whatever was attached to me, but whatever attached to me needed something, and obviously saw it in me, or could feel my energy or something, and knew that could get to where it needed to be. That's what I believe. It's like, well, why? It's like, because, universe is all connected here, and I feel like your mom is very connected. So well, it's like spirit knew. It's like, if I can get to Colleen can get me home. Like the spirit knew.
This is the path of least resistance for me. Yeah. And who knows? Well, that's very interesting. So, did you notice any physical manifestations, pains, aches, anything like that, other than, because you've explained the spiritual side effects of this happening? Did you notice any physical side effects?
No, nothing physically. It was definitely more mental, for sure.
So there were no physical manifestations. It was all spiritual and mental, and which is probably a good thing. I mean, I've heard of, the only reason I ask is because
it can physically manifest.
You can feel a pain or an ache or something is off.
That's the thing. My memory is just horrible. I'm just trying to think if I brought anything into her. It could have been my neck, because I was having a lot of neck issues.
Should we ask her?
Yes.
I'll go ask her.
Yeah, you said like you could feel something scraping your legs, and your car, when you were driving, your car was like being controlled.
Thank you. So yes. So when we were camping, there was like a can that was like stuck into the tire. And so I could feel that against my leg.
So even though it was in the tire,
I could feel it.
You could feel it. Because you said, like,
and then then I channeled my energy to put through down to get the can or whatever I thought it was underneath. And then it released, and then the car was able to go, because it wasn't able to turn.
Yeah. And I thought you felt like your car was starting to be controlled, and you felt like you got a scrape or a scratch across your leg or something like that.
No, I felt like I could feel the can or whatever. I felt like there was something stuck underneath the tire of the truck, and I was sitting in the passenger seat of the truck, and so I felt like there was a piece of aluminum or something that was underneath the tire.
Because what I recall is right around that time is when you came in.
I came in like a week or two after.
Yeah.
I had just been camping up in the woods.
Yeah. And you came in, when you came in, it was like, you looked like you had been hit by a Mack truck. I mean, you look exhausted. Mm-hmm. And that's many times is when there's an entity that attaches, it becomes so exhausting. Mm-hmm. And you feel like you're losing your mind.
I couldn't sleep, yeah. Well,
yeah, and you're like, what
spiritual psychosis.
Yeah, what is going on? How could this be possible? Yeah, I had another gal, she was always bubbly and bright and da-da-da. And she came in, and it was like, what has happened to you? And
you saw me the first time when I came in, hit by a Mack truck. I came back in, I was better. And then I came back in again, and you're like, whoa, this is not you. And then that's when you pulled out the chair.
Yes, like, sit down. But that's common, is like all of a sudden someone just looks so exhausted. They're spent. They're being followed, and you're being haunted,
Yeah.
And you just have that entity. You're just like double guessing, what's going on? And then any little thing makes you, any little bump in the night, you freak out. I mean, that's just the natural course of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was telling him the number one thing that I remember as you were releasing this, entity from me, how thankful the family was.
Yes, do you want me to tell that part of the story? When did that happen?
So it was in July.
Okay.
It was in July because we were camping. We were up in the White Mountains for about a week and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was meditating in the White Mountains because I had taken a break from meditation because I was, way too far into it. And so I tried a little bit up there. And then that's when I came home. And again, the electronics, that was the first thing. And I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it was the shadows. And then it was the presence, and it never felt dangerous, but it felt uneasy.
Right.
And on edge. Mm-hmm. And I was telling him the reason why I had to come back is because it felt like my spiritual psychosis from the first time when I came in here, when I first met you. And I was like, I need all the sage. I need all this because I activated my third eye. Opened,
right.
And I had all these things coming in. And so,
And when it happens really fast like that, it's very discerning. You're like, what's going on? Why? I don't understand this. And you feel like you're not in your body. And
Yeah, so then I was having those symptoms again where I was feeling like I was falling back into that spiritual psychosis. And so then I came in and you're like, you do not look well. Thanks, honey, but I know I do not look well.
You're like, I don't feel well.
No.
Yeah.
Like, this is why I came to you. I need to sleep.
So it was
What's
like,
wrong?
it was like close to closing time. And it was like, let's, apparently you don't like feeling this way. Do you want to get rid of it? I remember, because you always have to ask permission. It's like, what's going on here? And then I go through my process of spirit. I always, from my mentor, believe it's a spirit trap between two worlds. And I think the reason that it attached to you is because it was drawn to your light. It was drawn to something like, maybe I can get out of here, And so I also investigated afterwards. So she sat down on a chair and I sage everybody. So we saged, and I had muscle tested, which I always do with my fingers. And it was like, yes, the spirit's ready to go. You want to get rid of it. I went in and cleaned a house of an entity, and the girl wasn't ready to get rid of it. What? And I think it just, it's like, look, I have something going on, and I don't know. I don't know why, but that happens. But anyway, on this subject, it was ready to go. So I'm smudging, and I'm just saying, you now are invited to go up. You can leave now, and all is well, and we're ready for you to go. Thank you for the lesson of whatever you learned throughout that whole process. There's always something to learn. And whoosh, the spirit left. And then I get goosebumps and I get a little teary because it's like, wow. And you said
it was a rush.
Yeah, you said, I don't know what exactly you experienced because it's been a while ago, but it felt like a rush, or it was a lift, or
yes, like literally, I could breathe, it was the weight. I had said the weight was lifted. I don't even remember what I said, but I felt like I could breathe, like I could just breathe.
Yeah. And it was probably 2-3 minutes later. I get goosebumps when I'm doing this kind of work, and all of a sudden I get massive goosebumps. Still can get them on this particular experience, and it was the family that came in and said, "Thank you so much. We have been waiting for so long for our son to come home." And I've got goosebumps again. And it was like, what? Wow. That was incredible. The gratitude. You feel like when you feel pure love or pure joy, it was the gratitude. I have goosebumps up into my scalp right now. That was just magnanimous. And it was like, oh my goodness. You don't realize the work you're doing, or maybe that spirit, spirit works in all these strange ways. Go home with her. She'll take you someplace to get that spirit removed.
And you're like, I was like, spirit knows that Colleen has the hotline. So they're like, I got to get to her to get to her.
Yeah. It's the strangest thing. Who knows? But I remember going home and telling my husband, and he understands our ancestry is still around, they're on the other side of the veil. And I know sometimes I probably really freak him out with a few stories,
Yeah.
And I would, you always ask permission. You always ask also, can I share this story? Because it was intense.
Yeah.
Especially to see the evolution of it, of how it does exhaust people. It wears them out. And they're like, you feel like you're just lost in the middle. You're in a limbo. Like, what do I do? Where do I go? What's going on?
I don't know what would have happened to me.
Yeah. And it's not a fun experience.
No.
But man, how rewarding, how awesome it was when the family came in. And then as I marinated in it, it's my belief that it was a male energy. It was a son. He was killed out there. And I don't know how long ago, but the ancestral thing makes me think it was quite a long time ago. And they've been waiting and waiting. And I know time is all relative and fluid, but when you have ancestral waiting and waiting for their son to come home,
It had.
That wasn't yesterday.
No. Yeah, right.
Right? That's been a while.
Yeah.
No matter what time, timeline we're even talking about, there was that. So, and it's such a joy to be able to be of service, and gone. They don't linger here with me. They're like, okay, we're out of here. So, yeah, it was awesome.
Well, thank you for giving your insights.
Yeah.
Yeah, physical.
So, well, yes, I was tired, obviously. I wasn't sleeping. But that's just because I was, like I was telling you, those energetic, like the shifts, like it was that psychosis coming back. So it was the same symptoms of my first like Kundalini awakening. So it makes me wonder if I had something attached to me at that first time.
You may have just had some vulnerabilities still open. Who knows? I don't know how all this works.
Neither do I.
I don't know what a Kundalini awakening is.
Oh, okay. So it's like it's energy rising through. And I had a physical experience when I was going past a hospital where I had given birth to my premature daughter at 27 weeks, 2 days. She was down 2 pounds, 2 ounces. She's a miracle. She's a fighter. Charlotte, love her. And so I just done a lot of therapy work, sober, just really working on myself. I went past the hospital. All of a sudden, I feel this big, huge surge come up and over me. My husband's driving. I've been past this hospital plenty of times. Nothing happens. We're going by it. Huge surge. I feel it coming up, and I start wailing. I am just bawling my eyes out.
I thought you said you're gonna vomit.
No.
Like, oh, jeez.
Not like that exorcism. No. But I just like
Sorry.
like wailing, like not just like okay, like just out of nowhere, perfectly good mood, just start
The tear ducts are open.
wailing like when a mother loses their child type of wailing, because I experienced that in the NICU. I was there for 3 months. I saw a lot of stuff I didn't want to see. So anyway, that's when my therapist was like, that's trauma being released, the Kundalini rising, that type of thing. So I had no freaking clue. I'm a novice. I'm just going through it. People are telling me what's happening to me.
I don't know a lot of the terminology.
Yeah.
That's why I ask, because I know some people are gonna be like, "What does that even mean?"
And I'm not the one to even tell you either. So
yeah. Okay, so that was Colleen. That was my mother, and she's pretty great.
I seriously don't know what I would have done in that moment if I
didn't have somewhere to go.
Well, yeah, like what do you just had the spirit attached to me for however long, and maybe in a
Go crazy, Yeah. Sounds great.
But I mean, I guess it just, as your mom was saying, like maybe, it does it for a reason. It knew that it was, going to be able to cross over and
make a path here.
Exactly.
It's fascinating.
So I just don't feel like it can happen to anybody.
I think you're right. Do you think now more than ever there's like a spiritual awakening? People are becoming more spiritually independent, if that makes
1000%,
sense.
yes.
Like I feel like I see more and more people getting into being spiritual and having their own awakenings.
1000%, because me personally, I grew up Catholic, very indoctrinated religion, and now I see myself going through this spiritual awakening, but realize I'm just awakening thing to that we're all one, the universe is, we're all one. Like I think the scientists think the same as, any Christian, any Buddhist. I think we're all under the same umbrella. That's my personal belief. You know what I mean? We're all under the same creator. So, right. And we are the creator. So.
Okay. And then I've had this discussion with people before about my own spiritual sensitivity or lack thereof.
Okay.
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum.
None?
I have next to no sensitivity.
Really?
To anything.
Would you consider yourself an empath?
Not in an extreme way, but I recorded with my stepmom.
Yeah.
Who's very similar to Colleen.
Okay.
Spiritually speaking.
Really?
They get along. It's a good thing they don't live in the same state.
Two besties running at it.
There would be a whole reckoning. The Wickenburg would be taken over. There'd be a cult.
Joining.
See, it's already begun. Right. And I joke, Colleen started her crystal cult in Wickenburg.
Oh, definitely.
But it's all been all positivity.
Yes.
And love. I'm just giving a hard time. But so anyway, I bring this up because I see these things in me, and I like to be self-aware and think, okay, I may think that I'm right, And I feel very strongly that I am. But let me get perspective. Let me try and see it from your point of view, that person's point of view. How right am I?
Mm-hmm.
Does this really matter? And so it's more of things like that. So it's just, I like to have perspective. I wouldn't consider myself an empath, but
Libra too, aren't you?
yeah. So I had to think there for a second. I don't know.
No, but that makes sense.
So maybe not an empath, but not an emotional empath,
Mm-hmm.
a logical empath,
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call that.
You're my husband to a T.
To where it's like, I have very strong opinions and feelings, but I can respect and tolerate other people's. I'm not, you're wrong, you know, I'm not. What's the point? You're just gonna create conflict and all that.
You're self-aware, which is nice.
I would consider myself very self-aware.
A lot of people.
Not to pat myself on the back and break my arm by doing it so hard, but I feel like I'm a little self-aware.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. So my entire life, though, good or bad, I don't have spiritual experiences.
See, and so for me, I've had them my entire life. I was playing the piano at what was like 7 years old. And again, it was with the darkness, the shadows behind me. I felt a presence behind me. I saw my Aunt Charlotte, who had passed. My preemie, she's named Charlotte, and I had no idea that I was going to name her Charlotte. But when she came in fast and furious, and I knew she was coming, I was like, Charlotte, that's she. Yeah. I
can't say I've had none, but I've had very, very few.
Yeah.
And the ones that I know that I've had, I'm like, clocks.
Yeah.
When a blip shows up on the radar, it's easy for me to recognize that.
Yeah.
But I don't have blips constantly. It's very few and far between.
See, it might have been a lot this past year. I'm going to tell you, this is my last story before I go.
No, please.
So this is how...
I'm on your time.
So this is... I'm trying to think if she had removed the entity before or after. So my sobriety date is July 19th, 2020. And so it'll be 4 years this coming July. And it was my third year. And I'm one where I'm like, congratulations on me, 3 years of being alcohol free, and we had previously been living with my parents, and my parents, have always been like the, pat on the back, I kind of needed that, and my husband on that day, he's like, congratulations, really wasn't too, big on it, because we living in a fifth wheel, a lot of shit going on. And so of course here I go down in the dumps. He's not proud of me, no one really cares, kind of like getting really just down on myself and just like, I really wish my parents were here. I'm just moved to Wickenburg. I'm from Tempe. I'm not from here. So I'm very lonely. And I put on my headphones and I'm going to meditate because I listen to sound bowls when I meditate. And so I put on my noise canceling headphones and all of a sudden I hear a radio frequency in my right ear. And so I'm like, okay, I'm listening. And it like dials like the radio. So I'm like, okay. And it's just in my right ear. And so I'm like, okay, Spirit, I'm listening. Like something's trying to get my attention. At this point, anything can happen. And so all of a sudden I hear, and I'm like, ugh. I'm like, I hate that noise.
ASMR.
Ugh. I'm like, why? I'm like, Spirit. I'm like, why are you chewing in my ear? I'm like, this is just like.
I would hate that. I would hate that.
Yeah. And so, okay, I'm like, okay, you got my attention. Like that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I'm listening. Like,
come on, get out.
Yeah.
With it. Yeah.
And so then very like silently and very softly, like I hear. So they're kisses. And so I get a feeling, and it's not like I can see anything or anything. I'm just in it. I hear kisses, and then I feel them like they're on my forehead. And every single time there's like you know how you hear like a folding chair shuffle in the background, so you can hear them in the background, like they're moving. So like people are moving, and then I could tell like it was like grandmother's kiss, just different, and the different sounds that they were coming. And so I don't know how many, but it was probably for like a good like 10 or 15 minutes. I just had different people coming and kissing me 3 times, and so I knew I wasn't alone. I didn't need anybody physically here. I had my spirit guides with me. I had, my loved ones, my ancestors, everybody to support me for 3 years. And that's when I knew I wasn't alone. I'm not alone. And so it's like, you know, I'm sober by myself. I'm in a new place. I feel like nobody understands or no one like appreciates. Like, who's going to appreciate my sobriety? Well, I was quite a pill beforehand. So, you know, some people should appreciate it. But, you know, and it just reminded me, like, you know, I got this. You got this. You know, it's you. You know, you're doing it. You don't need the validation of others, you know, even though I'm getting it from the spirit world, you know, here's the validation. But that's when I knew it was real. That's when I know that my connection with spirituality is real. I know that, you know, and I have it figured out. Not to say Catholicism is wrong or anything else, but it's so much different. It's my personal relationship. And it's made me so much more of a better person to other people. It's made me a better mother. It just made me so much more kind to other people. I was so hard before, so hard to other people. I had been the Aries type A, just rude bitch. Like, just.
I didn't know that was an Aries thing.
Well, just the fire. Some people can't handle it and get too close. But,
fair enough. Yeah.
You know, and just so I know why everything is happening. My daughter being premature, spiritual awakening after, you know, everything happens as it should. It unfolds as it should. If all of this happened to me years ago, I would have been like, spirituality, fuck you. You know, what does that mean? You know, like. But I'm so much more open. I'm so much more aware. I'm so much more accepting. I know everything happens for a reason, no matter if it's how terrible it may seem at the time.
Good or bad. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It will pass. And there's always something on the brighter side, you know, always on that brighter side. Thank you for being my therapist right now.
Well, I was going to say, it's to your point. I mean, you went through some scary things.
Yeah.
But it was kind of for the best.
Yeah.
You had a spirit attached to you.
Yes.
Which most people would say, that's not cool.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be kind of for the best, right?
Yeah.
That's the perspective I'd like
it's
to.
100%.
Yeah.
Like in this whole spirituality, you know, yes, is it scary? Yes, is it wild? Yes, is it lonely at times? But I mean, it's all worth it.
And then this turned out to be a very uplifting and happy episode. You're kind of killing my vibe. No, I'm killing. I'm kidding. I joke. I mean, the show's called Unholy Vibes because people have scary things happen to them.
Yeah.
But this has been really nice because it's like scary things don't always stay scary. There's the bright side to some of these
I've
things.
been fearful my whole life of all things spiritual. You know, I've been so afraid. So afraid. But I'm not anymore.
Because you know how to handle yourself and handle it.
Right. And it happens more often.
Do you feel now that you're more spiritually awakened?
I don't know what it is.
Spiritually woke? Do you feel like that since you've had this spiritual awakening, you're more spiritually sensitive now, that you can kind of discern? I'm sure the answer is yes, but do you think you can discern, like, okay, there's some bad vibes over here. I'm going to, like, avoid this now.
1000%.
This is better vibes, or neutral, you know, not good or bad, but like, okay, this is a neutral kind of area, zone, person, whatever. Versus like, okay, I know I shouldn't go here or be near this person or whatever because they've got, shameless plug, unholy vibes. I got to try and get it in, But do you think that you're much more discerning now?
Yes.
And I'm like you said, you're a novice. It's going to take time to become more and more adept at these things, I'm sure.
Ask me that question one more time.
Do you think since your spiritual awakening and that you've gone through all of the things you've been through in the past year, let's say, or however long, right? Do you think you're able to more clearly discern, spiritually speaking, the light, the dark, the neutral, and know for a fact, like, I want to stay away from this person, this place, this thing, because I get bad vibes there. Right. And I feel very strongly I should just not mess with that.
I always felt that before, but I never trusted my intuition, my gut, whatever. But now, if, like, my flags go off, I know 100%, like, don't go in, don't engage. Like, this is not good for me. Another thing is that I know what's a distraction. I know what's meant as a distraction. It's not really kind of real in a sense, because I've noticed that there's just a lot of things are distractions to trip up your mind to not be focused on what's actually happening, what's real. So I think in my bullshit meter is just off the chart, I guess.
It's a very sensitive amount.
Yeah, that would, yeah, I would have to say, again, I'm definitely off of social media a lot more, listening to podcasts, but not following a lot of media trends or anything like that.
It's probably for the best. Social media is the worst.
How do you get yourself out there?
I'm not saying I don't participate in it, but especially for like the younger generation is just so enamored by it, and that's a whole other rabbit hole. But I'm very limited. I like to have a silly goose fun time and get a good laugh. Like I go to it for humor.
Same.
Or for food.
Same.
I'm a big food person. Like, ooh, that's a fun recipe. I should try. I mean, look at me.
Those are all my saved, yeah.
Yeah. Food and funnies. Yes. And then
and this is what I come
this is what I run the Instagram and
Unholy
the other stuff
Vibes.
for Unholy Vibes. Yep. And I'll show you my page before we get out of here, because if you want to follow, you can, whatever. And I told someone this, and this is 100% true.
What?
I'm not in it for the following necessarily, to like get rich and famous.
Yeah.
That'd be great. If I got money from this, fantastic.
Right.
I'm in it because I love a good story.
Yeah.
I just
But
want
I
more
don't feel
stories.
like this is a great story.
Yeah, this is a good story.
You think so?
Yes,
You're going to get something out of this?
absolutely.
Okay.
We've been here almost an hour recording. Well, I'll get something out of this.
Okay.
I-
You can cut it together.
Yes. Our lights just died. That means my battery's dead.
Perfect timing.
Yeah,
Spirit
it's good
said
timing.
goodbye.
Yeah, I think, I mean, do you feel satisfied?
Oh, 100%.
Heck yeah, dude. And we got Colleen in here, little Colleen cameo.
I know.
Well, thank you so much.
And I'm going to still continue to think about this when I get home.
Good. Yeah, I feel good.
Okay.
I feel good about all of this.
And if you don't use it, it's totally okay.
I will use it. You're going to be out there. Sorry, it's done. It's done. But
That's what Spirit told me. Like, I almost was going to back out. I was.
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add? Any advice maybe you'd give for someone who's trying to get into their own spiritual awakening?
Meditate with caution.
Take it easy.
Protect yourself. And just be open.
Yeah. If you have any questions, or you feel like I didn't ask a question, or you want to learn more about anything that we've talked about today, reach out on Instagram at Unholy Vibes Pod, or email unholyvibespod@gmail.com. If you or anyone you know has had any spooky experiences, spiritual experiences, you were chased by a killer, a stalker, an alien, a goblin, whatever, Bigfoot, anything and everything on the supernatural spectrum, I'm here for it. Stay spooky, my friends. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.